Join Boise State Public Radio for a concert with blues rock guitarist and vocalist Coco Montoya at the Treefort Music Hall in Boise, February 13th, with reserved seating. A night with Coco Montoya and his band. Find details and a link for tickets at boisestatepublicradio.org.
More Idaho Matters now from the studios of Boise State Public Radio News. I'm Gemma Gaudette. Space is a growing industry. Some estimates say there are 12,000 companies involved in the space tech industry right now, and those companies need workers. One Idaho nonprofit is working to get more people interested in space and the space industry. Kyle Averill is the founder of Sandpoint, and he's joining us today to talk more about this. Kyle, welcome to the program.
Thank you, Gemma. Happy to be here.
So, Kyle, tell us, what is Sandpoint?
Well, as you said in your lead-in, we are an Idaho nonprofit, and our focus is 100% on the space industry and essentially helping subject matter experts in the industry get their message out to the general public.
And so who all makes up your organization?
Well, we're 100% volunteer. No one in our organization earns a salary. We all have day jobs or very fruitful careers historically, and but we have a pretty good section or a pretty good amount of diversity from an experience perspective. We have folks in Boise, all the way across Idaho, in California, New York, and across the spectrum from physicists to, astronomers.
And what is the mission of Sandpoint?
Very simply, if you think about it in one metric, it's doing what we can to drive as much talent to the space industry. As you mentioned in your opening, there are 12,000 companies, 4 trillion market cap, 10 trillion by the end of this year, by the end of the decade. And the demand set for highly qualified individuals is very, very high.
Okay, so what kind of opportunities then are there in the space industry right now? When you say highly qualified individuals, are you looking, for just astrophysicists, or are there other fields, other growing professions that need these spaces filled?
Yeah, no, I think it's a great question. What we typically say in a very general way is there's anything you do here on Earth, you're going to need to do on Mars. So from a job function perspective, so everything from skilled trades, welding stainless steel, all the way up to, as you mentioned, physicists, engineers, scientists, you name the job, even your job here, right? Communication and awareness. You name the job and there's a need for it in the industry.
So can we talk a little bit now about your observatory at the University of Idaho? So is it true that you're using a shipping container for the observatory?
Yeah, well, that's one of the first initiatives that we had in our portfolio, if you will. But it's a tool, that allows people to get hands-on experience. And so given the weather here in Idaho, we decided, well, how do we want to build this observatory? And in addition, we want to be able to move it if we ever decide to relocate it. So the idea came up with a concept called, fairly common out there, rolling roof observatories. We took it one step further and we decided to use a brand new shipping container and cut a hole in the roof. And then that really became the structure by which we built the observatory. So we roll the roof back, and the telescope points out of that hole in the roof. And it was a great partnership really with UI because we're we drew electric or power from the University of Idaho and also network or fiber as well. So ultimately, we want to put it online so that remote users, workers, whether they're general public or scientists or educational institutions, have access to it remotely.
And you've said you'd like to build a network of these kinds of observatories all around the state. Where would you like to put them if this is possible?
Um, Really, I think the more widely dispersed we have them, the better, because one of the challenges with astronomy is um, the weather, right?
Mm.
And
Hmm.
so in Idaho, in the summer, sometimes we have fire season, in the winter, snow and clouds. And so, the idea behind this is if we can implement a few of these or connect into existing facilities out there, like at Bruno Dunes, for example, um, then people have options. If it's cloudy in one part of the state, you still can use a telescope in another part of the state. So that's what we would like to do.
And you're bringing in Dr. Ben Weiss from MIT. He's coming to Jump in Boise this week. So, quickly, for folks who may not be familiar with him, who is he and what will he be talking about?
Dr. Weiss is the head of planetary science at MIT, as you mentioned. And he's on probably four, five, six different NASA missions, one of which being Perseverance. And he's going to come out here to Idaho and at Jump in Boise. And he's going to talk about the Perseverance rover, which is the latest rover that is on Mars. And he's going to talk about that rover, the engineering of it, the entire mission, soup to nuts. And then, of course, he's going to talk about the science and, the why. Why did NASA send Perseverance or any other spacecraft to Mars? And the science behind that and the progress that they've made up to this point. And ultimately, Perseverance mission obviously is to determine or find signs of life on Mars.
And you'll have more events in March and May, correct? Can you kind of give us a quick preview?
Yeah, this is our second event at Jump. Actually, we've held events across Idaho. And again, it goes back to what we were talking about earlier, Gemma, is bringing these subject matter experts in across the spectrum of the space industry and providing the general public access and visibility to them. So, if nothing else, we plant a few seeds and, maybe space and the space industry is one of the options for them at the end of the day, whether they're high school students, college, early career, mid career, it doesn't really matter. The industry needs everybody across the spectrum. So this event
Well,
in at Jump is our second event. The first one was with Stoke Space that focused a little bit more on aerospace. This one with Ben is a little bit of engineering, as I mentioned, and science. It's a mix. And then in May, we have Caltech, and they're going to be focused on black holes, which is an extremely popular subject for folks out there. And then in October, we're running an interplanetary life event, and that will feature NASA. And that event will be a little bit different. It's going to probably last a full day, whereas these events, Ben MIT's event and Caltech's event, they're a couple of hours. But it's a great opportunity for, if you're thinking about a career there, it's a great opportunity for folks to actually network and build their network even before, especially if you're in college. It's a great opportunity to build your professional network before you even enter the working world. And so the first hour of these events is all about networking and getting to meet experts like Ben face to face.
before I let you go, what do you think it is about space that gets so many people excited and curious?
Hmm. It's really interesting. I think humans are explorers by nature, and they want to know what's on top of the hill around the corner. Um, and I think it feeds a need, for exploration, and humans are naturally curious as well. So I don't think it goes away. I think ever. I think we're just at a point in time to where, as we were talking about earlier, Gemma, now that you have 12,000 companies, you don't need to be a test pilot, right? As you used, that
Mm-hmm.
which was a big requirement back in the Apollo days.
Mm-hmm.
Now, as I mentioned earlier, just pick your career of choice, and as the industry continues to expand, there'll be opportunities there for you. So I think it's a curiosity. I think it's the need to explore, and I think it's the advancement in technology and knowledge where we are in our lifespan from a human life perspective. And I think people see it as a next logical step. It's interesting you you asked that because, I think years ago, I was thinking about this the other day, 10, 20 years ago, people would ask, well, why should we go to space? And now your question is, why are so many people interested in it? I think it's a
Mm.
huge change. It's subtle, but I think it's a huge change. And it's really, really super exciting.
Well, I want to thank you so much for the conversation. Really appreciate it. We've been talking with Kyle Averill, the founder of Sandpoint, about the growing space industry. Now, Sandpoint, as we mentioned, is bringing Dr. Ben Weiss from MIT to Boise this Friday to talk about robots on Mars. We will, of course, put a link to his talk on our website, boisestatepublicradio.org. I'm Gemma Gaudette, and this is Idaho Matters.
Each morning, it's a new opportunity, a chance to start fresh. Up First from NPR makes each morning an opportunity to learn and to understand. Choose to join the world every morning with Up First, a podcast that hands you everything going on across the globe and down the street, all in 15 minutes or less. Start your day informed and anew with Up First by subscribing wherever you get your podcasts.